Hi, I'm Jennifer. I am a research assistant and doctoral candidate at Purdue University in the Interdepartmental Nutrition Program. My research looks at evaluating local community health promotion partnerships. So I've collected and analyzed small survey data and have accessed and analyzed large county-level health statistic data sets as well. Here's a disclaimer. These videos are going to be super low-tech. I'm using a free screen capture program that has 0 video editing capabilities. So I don't know if you saw that weird Inception screen image at the beginning of this tutorial, but every time I record, that's going to happen. So we'll just get used to it, and we'll get by just fine. So welcome! Thank you for coming to this R for Analyzing the Behavioral Risk Factor Surveillance System tutorial series, or as I like to call it, R for BRFSS. Why am I making these tutorials? Well, the Behavioral Risk Factor Surveillance System is a national survey that's collected every year by the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. And these data are available publicly at the state level. And depending on your contract or data use agreement with your state Department of Health, you may have access to more specific information, such as county level or zip code level data, as well as some more specific population or respondent demographic information. So why R? Well, as great and comprehensive as BRFSS is, all of the documentation and support and sample code provided for BRFSS through the CDC is in SAS. And I don't know about you, but for me, SAS is just really not intuitive. Like in SAS, I can do what I can do, but I can't do exploratory data analysis or try out anything new because anytime I hit a roadblock, I just get stuck. But with R, anytime I make a mistake, I get an error message that I can just go ahead and copy and paste into the internet, and I usually find that somebody else has had a similar, if not the same issue. So it's much easier for me to troubleshoot my code and figure out where my mistakes were. So really I can do data analysis in R without being an expert in R. And to me, that's just so wonderful. So I'm a big fan of R. Also, R is free and SAS is not. So if you are trying to analyze the BRFSS data on your home computer, but you only have documentation and support for SAS, then it's going to be very difficult for you. So this is kind of like, R for BRFSS R is easier and it's free. So that's why I'm making these tutorials. Anyway, why are you watching these tutorials? Who are you? Maybe you are new to R. Well, don't worry about it. For every analysis that we do in these tutorials, every line of code that we write, I will hold your hand and guide you through it. No prior experience in R needed. Maybe you are new to BRFSS. That's okay as well. By the end of this tutorial series, we are going to spend so much time on the CDC website, so much time looking at the BRFSS codebooks, referencing the variables, looking up the response options, that you will be sick of BRFSS. And that's okay too. Maybe you are new to both R and BRFSS. Well, welcome. I'm so glad you showed up. Maybe you are an expert at both R and BRFSS. So I don't really know what you're doing here, but I'm glad you're watching this video anyway, so thank you for that. What are we going to do in this course? Well, first we are going to import, clean, and manipulate BRFSS data. Then we are going to do some data analysis. And all of the analysis that we do in this course, I will base it off of previously published peer-reviewed articles. And the reason why I'm doing that is because I want you to have a high level of confidence in the analysis that we're doing. So if you feel like I'm leading you astray, or you would just, like some more clarification or more specific answers for something that we've done, you can always refer back to the paper, or you can contact the authors of that paper, or even the journal if you're so inclined. We will also work on some data visualizations, which will be very interesting and very rewarding as well. Today, all we are going to do is download R and become familiar with the BRFSS website and some of the files that are available there. All right. So first things first. Let's close out everything. Okay. I'm going to take you to the internet. I already have some tabs open, so let me close the internet and take you to an empty internet. Here is another disclaimer. I don't really trust the internet, so I won't be providing any links in the description or anywhere else. What I'll do instead is open up an empty browser and show you exactly how I get to where we're going, right? Because I don't want to end up giving you a link that breaks or sends you to the wrong place or somehow you catch a virus from it. So I think this is safest for the both of us. Right, so first we're downloading R. So I'm going to type download R, and the first result is what we want, the R project for statistical computing. We want to download R. It asks you to set your CRAN-MIR. So that's basically the server that's either closest to you geographically, or maybe if your university or your organization has a designated server or something, you could select that as well. But for most people, and for our purposes here, we'll just download from the cloud, which will automatically select the most appropriate server for you. So you have two options in the cloud. One is an HTTPS address, the other is HTTP. So I don't know that much about computer science or the internet, but I do know that HTTPS stands for HTTP secure. So I guess if you don't want to download something securely, or if you're at home and you feel that your connection is secure and you're not worried about it, then you may decide to to download R using the HTTP address. So really it's up to you. I'm going to go ahead and download the HTTPS. I have a Windows, so I will download R for Windows, and I'm going to install R for the first time. So here we click on download R 3.5.3 for Windows, and it's loading at the bottom of my screen. I'll click on it so it pops up when it's ready. And as you can see here, this website was last changed on March 11th. So whether that means this version was updated or just patched, or the web page is actually changed, it's a pretty recent change. So that's something to keep in mind as well, is that R is always being updated, so you always have access to the most recent up-to-date packages and information. Okay. Right, so we are going to set up our installation in English. I actually have R installed. I've previously installed it, so it's going to ask me if I want to reinstall it. That might not come up for you if you haven't already installed it. But anyway, I'll just walk you through the installation as normal. So next, I agree with everything. It looks good. Yes, I want to download it onto this user. And yeah, so I've installed it somewhere else. I want to install it here again anyway. Yes. It asks me for this, do I want all this stuff? And I say, sure, why not? Don't know what that means, but I want it. I don't want to customize the startup. I don't know, probably wouldn't understand what it is, so I'll accept the defaults. Let's call it R. I actually do want to create a desktop shortcut, so I'll select that here. Next. All right, now it is extracting the files. Great. So there is R, base R, which is just the R console. You type the code and it gives you results, and there's like, another screen that shows if you produce a graph, there's a screen for a graph. That's what we will be working with in this tutorial series. But there's also another option called R Studio, which is more user-friendly, right? So when you're typing into the console, it will, often give you a pop-up window to recommend what it thinks you might be looking for. So whether that's a command or a function or a variable that you've called into the global environment previously is kind of like, when you're searching on the internet and it recommends a search for you. That's what RStudio does. But we're going to stick with base R, just the normal R console, because if you're just learning R, I think it's better for you to kind of do it the hard way first. So when you transition to or graduate, whatever, to RStudio, you'll really appreciate it more. All right, let's finish this setup. I guess it's on the desktop. Yep, so here we got the 64-bit version, and this looks like the 32-bit version, and those two versions they do more or less the same thing, except that 64-bit has a greater memory capacity, which realistically, the BRFSS data is a large data set, right? It has over 40,000 responses per year, but it's not millions and millions of responses long. So you could get away with analyzing the BRFSS data using this smaller bit version, but we're just going to use 64-bit because, why not? All right, so this is what R looks like. This is the R console. And we are not going to do anything else with R today. But if you downloaded it correctly, you should be able to open it. And we'll just go ahead and close it. And it will always ask you if you want to save your workspace image. You can if you want to. I never do. Now we're going to go back to the internet, and we're going to get familiar with the BRFSS dataset. So I'm going to search for CDC, because the Centers for Disease Control, or the CDC, conducts the BRFSS survey. So CDC, BRFSS, and then 2017, because that was the most recent release here, was the data collected in 2017. So what we want is the first result, CDC 2017 BRFSS survey data and documentation. This is the CDC BRFSS website. You see we ended up on the 2017 page, as we wanted to. On the left side, you'll see that all of the annual survey data is available. This data has been collected since 1984. So, we can go all the way back to 1984. It's a similar format, right? 2017 is where we want to stay today, though. And this webpage has so much information on it. If you have time, I really recommend just going through rather diligently and trying to understand what each document is. Not necessarily reading each document thoroughly with a fine-tooth comb, but you have a lot of information about what is BRFSS, the codebook. We will be in this codebook a lot, let me tell you. Some calculated variables, data quality, how they sample, how they set the sampling weights, all of this. It's so much. And so in this tutorial series, anytime we talk about or learn about something new from BRFSS, I will take you back to this webpage, open up the PDF documents or whatever resource on this page, and we'll talk about it directly, straight from the horse's mouth. So I'll take you right to the site of where I'm referencing the information. All right, so that is the survey data information. On this page, there is also data files, which we will return to in just a minute. But first, I want to show you the SAS resources, because if you remember, I complained about SAS and, just described how all of the available CDC resources for BRFSS are in SAS. And so let's just take a look at some of those resources. This link takes you to some formatting codes. So, whatever this is, AD2DEPEV is one of the variables in the BRFSS survey, so it's a survey question. These .dr whatever 1279 are the response options as they're coded in the data file, and then these not asked or missing, don't know whatever NS means, refused, yes, no. That is what the survey respondent would have selected in the survey. Okay, so if you're analyzing the BRFSS data and you want your output to have the specific response, not just the number that's coded for it, then you can go ahead and, run this code in SAS, and that'll get you what you're looking for. This is some more formatting code in SAS. You see it's this. I don't really know what it is, but it's also for formatting your variables in SAS. And finally, I want to show you this page, which is really comprehensive and really, if you're going to run BRFSS in SAS, you come to this page, right? Because this tells you how to read the data file into SAS, how to set your libraries, how to set your data output files, how to, what's all this? Like how to set your variables, how long each, how long each variable length is. It's a lot. It's really a lot. And oh boy. Yeah, so actually, when I first started working with BRFSS data, which was, I guess, about 3 years ago, I did it in SAS. And so I accessed these SAS resources, and they were really helpful to me. And yeah, so if you're good at SAS and you can, be creative with it and you don't have the handicaps that I do, then this is definitely the place that you want to go, and this is great. But this is not for me, so we are just going to close these tabs and never return again. All right. So finally, the last thing we're going to do in today's tutorial is download our data file. So the BRFSS data is available in 2 file formats. The first one is ASCII. The second one is a SAS transport format. And so since, as I said, I used to work in SAS, I'm just more familiar with this format, although if you want to download the other one, I'm sure it's the same thing. So we click on that, and it's downloading down here at the bottom of the internet. And go ahead and open that when it's ready. And we actually, so it's a zip file. Let me show you that. Yeah, zip. It's a zip file. So we have to extract it here. All right. Yep, extract all. And it wants to save it to my downloads. I don't want it in my downloads because I have a folder on my desktop called R for BRFSS. And so it already knows I want to put it in the desktop R for BRFSS folder. So I'm going to select and save it there. Oh, and then I have to press extract again. Okay, there we go. Right. And as you'll notice, this file is an XPT file. Oh, great, it popped right up. So this file type is XPT file. The file name is LLCP 2017. 2017 obviously is the year, 2017. And then LLCP refers to how the data was collected by telephone. So LL is landline, CP is cell phone. LLCP is landline cell phone. All right, and we'll talk more about that further along in the course when we look at some multiple years of BRFSS data, because actually before 2011, this data was only collected via landline. So comparing data before and after the landline and the landline cell phone, response collection is not really recommended. But that's just for your information. We won't talk more about that right now. All right, and finally, just to show you that this is a pretty big data file, so that cheesy little PowerPoint I showed you at the beginning was only 41 kilobytes. This data file is like 1.2 million kilobytes, which I don't have a good concept of computer space, but that seems big, right? Okay, so it's a pretty big file. So we can just go ahead and close out this, and I guess we're done with the internet. All right, we're done with everything for this first tutorial. Thank you so much for watching. Next time, we are going to read the LLCP 2017 data file into R and see if we can look at some of the data structures, glimpse the top of the data file, the first couple of observations, look at the variables. So we'll get more familiar just with the basic format of that data file. All right, so now I apologize. I have to do this weird like go back to this weird Inception screen to actually end the video. But I look forward to seeing you next time. So thank you.